What's up, everybody? Hey, Tom Laird here, host of the Advice from a Call Center Geek podcast and founder of Expivia. For exceptional contact center outsourcing, trust Expivia. We're fully AI-driven, as all of you know, and can handle voice, email, chat, and all of your digital channels. Our 600-seat USA contact center is expert in healthcare, financial services, insurance, tech support, retail, and more. Experts on the NICE CX1 platform, we ensure seamless customer experiences. DM me or visit expiviausa.com for more.
This is Advice from a Call Center Geek, a weekly podcast with a focus on all things call center. We'll cover it all from call center operations, hiring, culture, technology, and education. We're here to give you actionable items to improve the quality of yours and your customers' experience. This is an evolving industry with creative minds and ambitious people like this guy. Not only is his passion call center operations, but he's our host. He's the CEO of Expivia Interaction Marketing Group and the Call Center Geek himself, Tom Laird.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Advice from a Call Center Geek, the call center contact center podcast. We try to give you some actionable items to take back in your contact center, improve the overall quality, improve your agent experience, hopefully improve your customer experience as well. My name is Tom Laird. I am the CEO here at Expivia Interaction Marketing. We are a 600-seat call center outsourcer located here in Northwestern, or also known as Erie, Pennsylvania. Wow, you can tell I've done that intro a couple times. Probably might have to get a new one. How's everybody doing as we're recording this here? It is a Monday morning. Just got excited over the weekend about some things that I've been thinking about. Kind of wanted to start the week off with a podcast. As a lot of you have known, and I appreciate all kind of the messages and cards and things that I've gotten. My father passed away kind of the week before, but last week was kind of the, get your bearings back. So we did not really do a podcast. We did launch our NFT project. There's still free NFTs available. I think there's about 8 or 9 left, right? So if you want to check that out, I will again put the link in the show notes here. But again, it is just access to me. It's totally free. Video calls, webinars, 30-minute training for your team, anything that really we thought we could add value to. And again, I think it ended up costing most people who purchased them like $6 or $7, right, in gas fees. So something to think about, and love to have you guys come on board and kind of be, I guess, a little bit in the inner circle of what we're trying to do. All right, so I did a couple videos on LinkedIn and a couple TikToks over the weekend, just talking about some call center metric things that that I've been thinking about. And I think it's always about this time of year that I kind of get back into that groove of, the holiday season's approaching quickly. All of our retail clients are starting to now, staff up. We are, heading into a really heavy season for most contact centers and a lot of BPOs out there. So, thinking through metrics again, making sure we have things tightened up, making sure everything is benchmarked, making sure we understand where reps are, is kind of the process that we're going through right now, and wanted to kind of share some of those things. So, we break our metrics really into 3 pillars, right? And one is our efficiency metrics, right? That we're going to talk about here. The other one is our quality metrics, right? And the third one, and most of you guys have them, and most, contact centers, even customer service centers have some type of sales metric, cross-sell, upsell, right? So those are the 3 kind of pillars of things that you need to be thinking about in your contact center. And a lot of times we kind of maybe confuse some of them, but I think they kind of need to be in their own pocket, right? So that you can really have a group or have supervisors be focusing on specific things. And again, all of them are important, but I think, to focus on some certain specific things that you may be struggling with is kind of the way that we like to do things. Phone's ringing here. So first thing, from an efficiency standpoint, my 3 or 4 favorite efficiency metrics, right? Average handle time, occupancy, service level, and something that we don't think about too much, but it kind of ties in is your abandon percentage. But I think really the first 3 are the most important. So number 1 is let's talk about service level, right? And then for those of you who maybe are new to this, so service level is basically the percentage of calls that we're answering within a specific period of time. So again, we always, I don't know why we always get into arguments over this metric, but every call center is a little bit different. But on average, I believe for most contact centers, we are using an 80-30 service level, meaning we want 80% of the calls answered within 30 seconds or less. Now, if you go white glove service, or some type of, people talk about 2 rings or 3 rings, those type of things, you could be at a 90-10, 90% answered within 10 seconds or less. It's a different level of efficiency. In fact, it lowers your efficiency because you have to have people available if you're going to make sure that you're answering calls, that quick. So 80%, I think, gives you a little bit of leeway. If you have some availability, it's going to help. If you have people that are going to wait, it's not going to kill you for the day, right, for your service level. But I think that gives you, what we have found is most of those metrics equal out. If you do an 80-30, it equals out to the occupancy, which is the next metric, which is occupancy is the percentage of time that your reps are in a working state. I include after call work in that. Some organizations do not include. So basically what we're saying is the amount of time from when they answer the call, take care of the customer, are in after call work, right? And when they go back available. So if we take all that working time, I like to have my reps, and I think what is fair is to have a 70 to 75% occupancy, which basically means right around that 45 minutes out of the hour they're in a working state, and 15 minutes out of the hour, right, they are kind of in an available state, or they can kind of take a breath. Now, why after call work gets a little bit weird with that, right, is because if you are not kind of mandating after call work or automatically having reps go back available after a certain period of time, it can be taken advantage of, right? So if you have reps that are taking extra long after call work, that can kind of skew your occupancy number if you're including that. For most of our stuff, if there's not some long memos, we are 30 seconds and then having our reps automatically go back available. So those kind of things. And again, I guess every efficiency metric kind of ties into the other efficiency metrics, right? So we have our service level. We know kind of what we want. We have our occupancy, where we're making sure that we're not, number one, that we're being efficient with our reps' time. But we're also not burning them out either, right? We don't want them talking 57 minutes out of 60, right? Or in a working state. I think that's too much. And you're going to have high attrition and people are going to be miserable, right? The other, one kind of too is we talk about abandonment rate. I see this with different customer bases, right? And it's almost like there's an art and science to this. So each different client base for us or customer base for you guys, we'll have different kind of thresholds for how long they're willing to wait. You've heard me talk about analytics a lot with this, right? That we can actually check sentiment scores based on the amount of time that customers are in queue, and we can start to see when they start to get ticked off, right? So again, if you cannot afford to staff at a level at an 80-30, right? That's one of the ways that you can look to say, well, maybe I don't need an 80-30 because my customers will stay on hold. They will not abandon up to 1:37 seconds, right? So maybe you want to do, kind of an 80-minute, 37 seconds, right? Or how many seconds that is. We've done that, and we're doing that currently in our call center, which I think is a really cool kind of way to use analytics as well. You've heard me talk about that a ton. So again, that's the first pillar, right? We need to be efficient, but we need to be fair, right? We have to be fair with our associates. We cannot be burning them out. Efficiency goes both ways, right? Because if you just absolutely are hammering, get off the phone, get off that call, right? Take the next call. We have calls in queue, and you're doing that. Yeah, you're going to have some issues with your associates and with your workforce. So there has to be a happy medium with how you're scheduling. And again, we can get deeper into workforce management with efficiency and forecasting and all that. But again, I think for most call centers, you just got to make sure that you understand those kind of 3 or 4 core metrics. All right, then we talk about quality, and we can go in so many ways with this. So everyone should have, a scoring system for their associates. I know there's a lot of different tools now that they say you don't really need, right, to have a scoring system that they kind of can score. I have never really seen, and I've demoed so many different things that that makes it perfect, right? Or really takes the human element out. Sentiment scores and those types of things, I think that human element can go out. But when we're talking hardcore, did they do the exact things that they need to do on a call? Is there any coaching that needs to happen? How is their overall tone? Do they understand where to go on the screens? I think that really still needs to be human scored. So make sure, and I have multiple podcasts on setting up a basic call center QA platform. Right, if you don't have a tool, right, you can just use Excel. Right, you can use Word to make sure that your reps are doing what they should when they should. So that's the first piece, right? And everybody should know what their scores are, and it should be benchmarked with your QA staff so that if somebody's giving an 87 and somebody gives a 95, right, that we understand that we can believe that what those numbers are. We do a lot of benchmarking with all of our clients as well so that they feel comfortable when we score something that is the actual score. Then you get into kind of the tools now, which is the really fun stuff, and it's evolving and it's getting better, right? So you have your survey tools, right, which is basically CSAT and NPS, right? Customer satisfaction and net promoter scoring, right? Net promoter scoring is basically saying, it was the service good enough for you to go kind of talk to one of your friends about, right? And would you recommend, right, this company based on kind of the service that you got? And then, you take your yes or no's and you get a kind of a net plus or minus, and you find out where you are on the kind of the scale. CSAT is just that, right? We're just asking basically if the customer was satisfied with the service that they had. A lot of different survey questions. You guys know I hate using NPS and CSAT, especially when it comes to rep or associate quality. I don't think it's fair. I think that there's so many things the rep can do right, but if the customer had a bad outcome, maybe just based on a corporate or company policy, they're going to hammer that rep, right? And it's only going to be the really happy people or the really ticked off people that are going to really do these surveys anyway. So I think number one, it's skewed from that standpoint. Number two, I think it's unfair because I've seen reps do an amazing job, but have low CSAT scores or NPS scores just because they were following policy maybe on a retention line, and people were canceling, and they were not happy even though they followed every single policy procedure to the T. So again, I'm more into then the third piece, which is the sentiment scoring. I think it's getting better and better and better. I think it's very close to overtaking. We have seen an absolute direct correlation between sentiment scores and NPS. That's what I like to push. We still have clients that use the surveys, right, in our call center, and we can, we set those up and we can do those. But I also really try to push, and we will just do it even internally if they don't want that data. We keep that data to look at sentiment scores. That's pulled up every single day. Our reps know who's doing what. Right. And it really does correlate too between personalities, right? You can, that kind of hardcore salesy person that maybe be a little bit rough, but they handle their service calls pretty well. The last piece here though, then is kind of our sales metrics, right? All of your call centers have some of that. So talking about conversion, talking about sales per hour, talking about retention, right? Those type of metrics are kind of the third piece that we need to make sure that we are monitoring, right? So conversion is basically, you can do that a couple different ways, right? So you could do it on the amount of total contacts or total calls that a rep takes and how many they sell off the total, which really isn't fair. Most call centers will use qualified calls, right? So meaning the calls that came in that the rep actually had an opportunity to sell. And then did they sell off of that? So that can be a really good metric if you're doing that on qualified calls to see who's the really good salespeople in your organization. Retention is a huge deal, and it's a huge selling piece. And it's really big in most contact centers when customers are calling to cancel, if there's some type of downsell, if there's some type of way that we can retain customers, right? Again, need to do that on qualified calls, but I think that's a huge metric as well. And then obviously just sales per hour, right? How many sales? We also say MOPS, like method of payment, because now there's so many different ways that you could do an ACH, you could do a credit card, you could do a debit card, you could, mail in a check. So MOPs, right, or method of payment. The other thing too is looking at connects, like some of these, and this gets more to the outbound, kind of side of this. And I know a lot of your call centers, we're taking customer service calls. We're also making outbound calls, right? Making sure that you understand the difference between a connect and a contact, right? A connect is basically anybody who answers the phone. It did connect, right? A contact is you talk to the proper person. Sometimes that doesn't matter. Sometimes that does. But again, that gets to the qualified versus unqualified call. So again, those are kind of the three core metrics or three core pillars that we kind of look through. And then we make sure that, we're kind of hitting those four or five different actual KPIs within those pillars. And that's kind of what we're going through again right now, making sure we have all that tightened up, all that benchmark. But I think at least once a year, make sure that you understand, and you should have all these benchmarks. You should know exactly what these calls are, or what your percentages should be, what your amount of time should be, what the overall KPIs should be set at, so that you can really understand where a rep may be struggling, or where you are efficient, or where you are not as efficient as you should be. I hope that helps everybody. Happy Monday. Have a great week if you're listening to this earlier in the week. And I will talk to all you guys next week.